So the Browns have the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And it's leading to a bunch of discourse on Browns Twitter and pretty much everywhere in Cleveland, sports talk radio, wherever you look. Do we take a quarterback or do we trade down to gather assets and pick best player available wherever we trade down to? And I see both sides. I do see both sides. But we're going to talk about the quarterback spe- situation specifically right now, and specifically Shedeur Sanders. The Shedeur Sanders discourse on the internet is going to be tiresome all the way up until April when we have draft. And it's going to be tiresome for me specifically because I've made no secret about how much I'm a fan of his on Twitter and how much Colorado content I've consumed in the past 18 months. So talking about Shador, everything or everyone, almost everyone that starts to talk about him has to bring up Dion first. They're bringing up Deion Sanders first when they want to talk about Shador. Why are we doing this? Please, someone tell me. I I need answers as to why we keep doing this because Shador is not Dion. Dion is not following Shador to the NFL. I don't know how many times they have to say it to your face. He's not. He's not following Shador to the NFL. It's just not happening. Um, if you pay attention at all to Deion Sanders at Colorado, you will understand the way that he coaches can only be done in a college program. That shit will not work at all trying to run an NFL franchise. It will not. He's yelling about guys wearing wrong color socks at practice. This is not gonna happen for any of the 32 in the Shield. This is not gonna happen. So we can cut that out right there. So knock that off the board. To talk about Shador Sanders' game and the main takeaways that I see on the internet, for some reason, number one is that he doesn't have a strong arm, which I don't know where that comes from, but he has a strong enough arm. Like there was somebody comparing him to Tua earlier today as far as arm strength, and that's just not true. Um, you only have to see one game. You just have to see one clip of Shador against Baylor throwing the Hail Mary from damn near parallel to the ground from 50, 40 yards away. And that should let you know about arm strength that that young man has. So comparing him to Tua and with arm strength just doesn't compute for me at all. Um, and I'm not saying that he has Josh Allen's arm. He doesn't have Mahomes' arm or anything like that. Like once he gets to the league, he'll have like a slightly above average arm strength. Like nothing to write home about, nothing to fawn over. Um, nothing like that. But it's not like he's weak armed. It's not like he's Chad Pennington or anything like that. So I don't know how we came to that conclusion, but again, everybody has an opinion on Shador Sanders, and not everybody is watching Colorado football like some of us have. And the next thing is the amount of sacks that he's taken. And that is a valid concern. That is absolutely one of his worst weaknesses when you cut on the tape is watching him take sack after sack and getting hit. And I played offensive line, so I'm not one of these people that is going to blame it all on the offensive line because I know what goes into it. A quarterback can make his line look good, just like the line can make a quarterback look good sometimes. There's a lot of give and take there. So the talking about how he takes a lot of sacks is very much valid. On the other hand, Colorado's offensive line in 2023 and 2024 were so bad that it has to be in consideration for why that was a problem. Now, and I'm not saying that they gave up sacks immediately every single time, but the accumulation of the amount of hits Shedeur was taking, I believe, has an impact on how he was back there in the pocket going through progressions. Like what I mean by that is the line was well. I'll say it this way: watching specifically in 2024 this season, watching them every week, the five linemen, whoever were out there, it was very rarely that all five at the same time won their matchup. It was very rare for all of them to together not allow any pressure. Almost every play you see, okay, one guy messes up or two guys mess up. It it's football. Not all five guys are going to be messing up every single time. They have scholarships, therefore they're there for a reason. They can play football, but it was just the continuity of that offensive line was not very good the whole year. And every single play, somebody was letting some pressure through. And I think as a quarterback, you know that and you're cognizant of that, and it affects how you are going to play the game. So all in all, um, and that's just talking about the weaknesses. Nobody is bringing up the strengths. Yes, he got hit 1,000 times in the past 2 years, but nobody talks about how tough that kid is. Nobody talks about him not coming out of games after getting punished out there behind the offensive line. Um, Nobody wants to talk about his completion percentage. And like, again, I watched all these games, and the completion percentage is not a Trevor Lawrence problem where he's throwing a lot of screens in that offense. Yes, he is throwing screens. There are screens, but there's a lot of time that offense where all four receivers going out are running past the sticks. And in those cases, who are you going to throw the ball to when a second and a half in there's somebody in your face and you have to escape. You If you're going to escape, you roll to one side. Yeah, the Z over here was running open, but I had to run to my left and I couldn't see him because I had to make sure I didn't get sacked. We're not talking about the positives. We're not talking about the accuracy. We're not we're not talking about the willingness to let his receivers make plays. Like he knew that the success of his program rested on his shoulders. And for a quarterback anywhere, I think that matters. Like, you go into every game knowing to win this game, you got to put at least 35 on the board. At least, depending on who you're playing. And that's a lot to ask somebody playing quarterback in college. That's a lot to ask anybody playing quarterback anywhere. 35 points is a lot of points. Like, and they needed a superhuman performance from him every time if they wanted to win. And when they won, they generally got that. And when they lost is when he wasn't able to give it to them. Like, if you go back through the three regular season losses, was Nebraska, was Kansas State, and it was Kansas. Um, Nebraska, Nebraska was just the better team on the field that day. There's no way to put it, no excuse about it. Nebraska was the better team that day, and Nebraska's defense got after the Colorado offense, got after Shedeur. Um, Watching it back recently, I don't know if there's anything Shador could have done by the way the offensive line was letting people through almost immediately in that game. So, I mean, it is what it is. He did throw a horrific pick six in that Nebraska game to, and it was early too. I think it was they were down 7-0. I think it was in the first quarter, but he threw a horrific pick six in that Nebraska game, and like that's all on him. Like, yeah, you got to get the ball sometimes, but no, you don't. Not there, not that way. Um, you taking all kinds of sacks every other time. So what was one more there? Like, that was a terrible decision for me. Um, and yeah, sometimes quarterbacks do make horrific passes. Um, Mahomes was making them all the first half of this year, so it happens to everybody. Um, but getting back to Colorado losses, the second loss against Kansas State, they didn't have Travis for the stretch run of that game, and it showed. Um, but it came down to Shador. Um, and he needed to make plays for them to be able to win that game on that last drive, and he didn't. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But it did that game did come down to what he was able to provide at the quarterback spot, and he wasn't able to get it done that game. And then third loss against Kansas, I don't even remember how many points Colorado scored, but I think Kansas just scored again. I think Devin Neal just scored again. He ran all over them. He ran all over them. So that's not something Shador Sanders can affect. But on the other side, if they were to win that game, he would have had to put up an astronomical amount of points. And sometimes you're just not able to do that. It's very hard. It's very hard to do on a consistent basis. And he was able to do it 9 times, but those 3 times he wasn't able to do it, and they lost because of it. A lot like Caleb at USC in 2023. It it was all on his shoulders. If we won, it was because of you. If we lost, it's because you couldn't win. And fair or not, that's how it is in some programs. It's not like that. Uh, let's see, right now it's not like that. Penn State, they won a playoff game off the backs of their running backs. Um, it's not like that in Notre Dame. Their quarterback, like their quarterback made plays, yes, but in their playoff game, their second playoff game, Riley Leonard had 90 something passing yards, maybe 90 exactly. And that's not spectacular, but they still won. So it's not like that at every program, but at the program where your quarterback is the best player on your team, well, that's not Colorado because Travis Hunter's the best player on their team, but somewhere where the quarterback is one of your best players, it, he's going to need to perform every game. And I can't knock a kid in college for being behind that offensive line and not being able to produce 12 out of 12 times. He gave you nine. He gave you what he could. He gave you nine times. Um, almost gave you 10 in that Kansas State game, but just wasn't able to pull it through. Um, but yeah, I don't understand the feedback that people are giving that he's not a first round talent. Um, and people can have their opinion. People can watch the games that I've watched and come to a different conclusion, and that's their right, and they're entitled to that opinion. But I just don't disagree. And this video is not me saying Shedeur Sanders is by far the best quarterback prospect we've ever seen. He's not generational. He's not even slam dunk number one overall pick in this draft. Only reason we're having this conversation is because we think Tennessee might take Cam Ward at number one. So that goes to show you that it's not automatic that he's quarterback one in this draft. He's my quarterback one, but I just want to get it out there on record that some of the criticism that he's receiving is not fair. I watch people talk about how Cam Ward is QB1, and I've seen him throw some of the worst interceptions I've seen in football in 2024. And I do like Cam Ward, but not over Shedeur Sanders. So yeah, I just wanted to come back here, get on the microphone and explain how I was feeling, but I had to do this because it's gonna be a long few months up until the draft. Um, and to be fair, I don't even want the Browns to take Shedeur. I want them to trade back. I want them to make that trade back and take best player available wherever they are. Um, even if they don't trade back, take Abdul Carter, pair him next to Miles. We see what a dominant defensive line can do. Two great edge rushers in the AFC North will be a problem. There's a lot of other holes to fix, but I don't think taking a quarterback at two overall in this draft in this year is gonna be the path forward. So we'll see, but I'll be back talking about other stuff. So until then, we'll see you.